Hello, this is Ray Edwards from learncopy.com, and I thought that I would do this video to introduce you to my copywriters slash marketers library, so you can get an idea of some of the books that you may want to have a part of your library as well too, as you try to develop your own copywriting skills. Now, in presenting to you these books as well too, I try to categorize them. It's not every book you can really, put them in a neat category, but I try my best to not only categorize them, but also tell you what I think are the more important ones, so that if you're not really interested in going as deep into copywriting as I have, seeing that it may not be your livelihood as it is for me, at least you would know what are the more critical books that you should have in your library as you try to build on your copywriting skills. Now, as a copywriting coach, I encourage all of my students to read Dan Kennedy's The Ultimate Sales Letter as being their first book, and for several reasons. One, it's an easy read. Two, Dan Kennedy deals with the letter, the sales letter, from the headline right down to the final PS, and discusses different sections of the letter. And so if you're just interested in wanting to know how to write a sales letter, then you cannot go wrong with the Ultimate Sales Letter. Okay, so it is basically looking at a sales letter from the headline all the way through, how to write headline, how to write an opening, how to write bullet points. And it does have in some marketing wisdom as well too, but it is one that is written in a very simple language and gives you a very comprehensive overview of the sales letter itself. Okay, so always come highly recommended as a first read for me, The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. Now, another copywriter's book as well too is the Copywriter's Handbook by Robert Bly. Now, this doesn't really go through the sales letter in that detail as Dan Kennedy's book does, but it is more comprehensive in terms of if you're interested in being a copywriter and running a copywriter's business, and how to market yourself. So it's kind of a one-shot kind of a book that covers a whole myriad of different subjects as it refers to copywriting, writing brochures, catalogs, public relations. So it doesn't just deal with the sales letter alone, but it's more comprehensive in terms of a copywriter's guide. Okay. Now, one book I find also that is a very good book to have too is Advertising Secrets of the Written Word by Joe Sugarman. Okay. Now, Joe Sugarman's book is very well laid out, and it, as well as Dan Kennedy's book, Ultimate Sales Letter, goes through the different sections of the sales letter, looks at examples of different sales letter that has worked very well in the past, why they have worked in the past, and he tried to draw out principles, okay, on which you can build your sales letter, okay. And Joe Sugarman was a very successful direct marketer himself, and he shares some of those secrets with you in Advertising Secrets of the written word. He looked at what we refer to as the psychological triggers that you want to psychological buttons that you want to press, how to prove your point, and in your sales letter. Talks about the process of actually writing a sales letter as well too, and highly recommended. Okay, Advertising Secrets of the Written Word. Now, an all-time classic is the Robert Collier Letter Book. The Robert Collier Letter Book. The Robert Collier Letter Book is a daunting 466 pages. Okay, so it is a long read, but it is it's highly recommended on my list. Not because he only gives you different strategies of selling and marketing your product, but he also gives you a lot of old ads. And again, many times people think, well, advertising is something that you have to bring something fresh all the time, but the principles of advertising remain the same. The principles of copywriting remains the same. Okay, and you know, many people think, well, today we have Facebook and we have social media and so forth, but the principles are still the same. You still have to get people attention, you still have to get them interested, and you still have to stroke their desire, and you have to get them to take action. The principles are the same. And I've seen many marketers who have been using the principles from the Robert Collier letter book. Okay, so again, this comes highly recommended on my list as well. A daunting read, but don't let it discourage you. Now, another book is Web Copywriting, Web Copy That Sells by Mariel Veloso. She touches a little on email marketing, you know, as well, and you know, looked at different elements of writing good email in the final chapter. But she as well to look at the very structure of the sales letter and suggest one structure to you and how you can use that structure or template as a guide. And she looks at some elements of persuasion as well too, some psychological motivators, very much like Joe Sugarman. The reason why device, the Zeigarnik effect, the cliffhanger principle, and some NLP and embedded commands and presuppositions, and you know, some psychological techniques that you can use in the in writing your sales copy. Okay, now one book that I bought very early as well too. I think I bought this around maybe 2005, 2003 actually. Is Net Words by Nick Osborne, and what I love about his book is he speaks about how we can transfer writing from offline to online. In other words, then he looks at the special aspects of online writing that we have to take into consideration, so we do not just write as we do online as we would, you know, an offline letter. Okay, and he again as well too has a lot to write about, you know, email and communicating through email, and you know, how you can close this sale and how to build, you know, relationships through email marketing and so forth. Net Words by Nick Osborne. Now, Joe Vitale has written many books, and one directly involved in copywriting is Hypnotic Writing: How to Seduce and Persuade Customers with Only Your Words. And he here basically uses his own language and own metaphor. And so, not that you're going to be able to hypnotize anyone with your writing, but it is a good read, and you know, I'll recommend this as well too. Not really a top one on my list per se, but it is, you know, it's worth a read. Okay, now at the top of my pile in terms of what I refer to as meta copywriting. Okay, now a lot of copywriting books are very practical. You know, they tell you what works, what doesn't work, the principles to use and so forth. But if you want to go behind why those principles work, then Eugene Schwartzman's book, Breakthrough Advertising, used to sell on eBay for $900 because it was not readily available until I think his Boardroom Inc. that republished it in 2004. And I got this, I think, was for $90. But the Schwartz write in a highly intellectual way, and therefore you would not want this to be your first copywriting book. Okay, you would want to have read some other copywriting book, or even maybe have done some copywriting to make sense of what he's really saying. But he goes behind the reason why these copywriting principles work, and principles of persuasion and so forth work. Okay, so this is a book I keep close by. It's not something that you want to read once and put down. It's something that you might have to read several times before you understand what he's really saying. But very, very, very solid book, worth its weight in gold. Okay, now some other books as well too. This is by Brian and Jeffrey Osberg and L.T. Cedar. I think they used to have a newsletter a long time ago. I don't know if it's still live, called Wizard Academy. And it is persuasive online writing, how to take your words to the bank. Now, what I find about this book, well, a little different about this book, is that it goes into the very language of copywriting. You know, goes into grammar. You know, how you go for the active instead of passive, and how to express different ideas on the language level. You know, adjectives and adverbs, and they go into the mechanics therefore of the language, and it's worth a read. Okay, now highly recommended for me as well is Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples, and this book is highly recommended if you really would like to learn how to write good headlines. He has, I think the book has in about 18 chapters, and 4 of those 18 chapters deal with headline writing. Okay, so this book comes highly recommended for headline writing. Now, from the very name of the book, Tested Advertising Methods, he is purporting to give you principles that have been learned in the trenches. These are not just theories that he's telling you. He's giving you advertisements that have worked in the past and showed you like what works and what doesn't work and so forth, and the reason why he says tested advertising method. These are methods that have worked in the past and therefore are most likely to work again. Now, this is one guy who's I would always be corrected in terms of calling his name, is Ogilvy on advertising. Ogilvy on advertising, and he's highly revered in the advertising world. Very famous for many of his advertisements, and although most of his work has to do with billboard advertisement and print ad advertisement, there are a lot of principles that are used here, that he purports here, that are still used today. Something you read a book and something stays with you, and one of those principles that stayed with me was that he found that ads on television ads for food on television are very effective if the food is shown, if a close-up shot is given of the food and in slow motion. So every time I look at a television ad and I see food being advertised, and I say, there goes Ogilvy's principle in use. They always give you a close-up shot and in slow motion, to get your saliva going. Okay, so Ogilvy on advertising, classic. Now, again, not really directed, another book by Ogilvy, not really directly related as well too, but it's Confession of an Advertising Man. It talks more about working for ad agencies and the advantages and disadvantages. Talk about how to build campaign, talk about how to be a good client and so forth. So this is not really necessary in terms of, for copywriter point of view, except as a freelance copywriter, I should say, except you're planning to go into work for an agency. Now, another highly recommended book, and I've seen many other copywriters who have said that this book has given them dramatic results, is How to Write a Good Advertisement, a short course in copywriting by Victor Schwab. Okay, and he looks at the sales letter as well too, almost done as a course, and at the end of each chapter he actually has questions, quiz at the end of the chapter to see if you understand the principles that he is teaching in each of these chapters. Okay, so again, highly recommended, How to Write a Good Advertisement by Victor Schwab. Okay, now note there, those are my main books I have on copywriting, and note here that these are basically print books, but there are some books that I got as ebooks, and I found that they were good enough for me to print out. One of these is Magnetic Sales Letters by Michael Kimball, and this is an ebook I got as being when I signed up to be a member of the Warrior Forum over 10 years ago. But what I did is, and what I encourage my coaching students to do as well too, what I did is that after I'd read Dan Kennedy's book and I'd read Joe Sugarman's book and looked at all the principles that they were portraying, what I did is that I went through all of these letters, okay, all of these letters by Kimball, and what I did, see all my highlighting and so forth, and I would put notes, I put my own notes to the side to say what principles that were being used in each letter. Okay, for example, this letter, says how to cash in on the booming demand for CD-ROMs, and these are all print ads. And the first, at the beginning, the first paragraph, it starts out different. If you want a great huge, and in my, in the side I put, this is a qualifier, and then he said prove, prove to the market, prove the market for your GAN, show the return on investment. So I went through each of these letters and looked at not only the flow and the structure of the letter, but kind of highlighted all the principles that he was using, strategies that he was using. And that is one way, one of the best ways, even though some people claim that writing out the ad would help. I've never really practiced that per se, but what I've done is that I've read many sales letters, and in doing that you kind of get a sense for the language and the flow of the letter, and you see the principles as they are in use. Now, another book I got as an ebook as well, so what was good enough for me to print out, is Double Your Profits in 12 Months by Clayton Makepeace, a highly respected copywriter. And this was as part of the total package. I used to be a part of his newsletter when it first came online. And he shares some very important rules and principles about copywriting. So even though this came as an ebook, I printed it out, and this is one I refer to many times over as well too. Okay, and so those books that I've shared with you so far are books that have been directly involved with copywriting in terms of writing the sales letter itself, and writing the sales letter itself. Now, they are as a copywriter, well, you are a writer, and it means therefore then that you're going to need tools that are going to try to help to enhance your ability, and your skill, help you to hone your skill as a copywriter. Now, as a copywriter, you don't have to have a degree in English. You don't even have to have passed English in high school, but you still at the same time must know how to write. Okay, and so therefore there are some tools that you may find helpful. Now, directly when it comes to copywriting, you are a writer, you need your dictionary. There are some certain words that are used over and over again in advertising, and many times you are stumped because you do not want to use the same word over and over. Now, when I'm doing a critique for my students, many times they might use the same word like information, in this information, or this book, this book, this book. And you don't want to be using the same word over and over again. You want to use selling words, okay? You want to find synonyms that you can use. And words that sell, okay, is a very handy tool. What the author did, Richard Banyan, is that he went through thousands of ads, and he picked out those words that were used over and over again. So for example, you have like maybe over 30 ways in which you can say popular. So instead of saying this is the most popular, you can say this is the most acclaimed, the best-selling, the favorite, all-time favorite, America's favorite, famous, fave, legendary. So basically it's like a thesaurus for the copywriter. Okay? Now, along with words that sell, there's also more words that sell. More words that sell. And basically, as it says, more words that sell, it goes through to find, other words that are used as well too. And not to be outdone by words that sell are also phrases that sell. Okay, so these are some tools that you would like to have in your library. It's not a book that you're going to read all the way through, on one sitting, but it is, written like a thesaurus, and therefore it's something that you want to refer to when it comes to, when you come to the editing stage of your your writing. Now, talking about the editing stage of your writing, I think that as a copywriter, you should at least read one book on editing. One book on editing. And editing is not just correcting. Editing is not a matter of just correcting grammar and spelling and stuff like that. But editing really is trying to make your writing as clear and concise as possible. Okay. So for editing, you need to make your writing clear. You want to be the person to be able to understand what you're saying without any doubt. Making sure that your words flow, like our mind is not flowing right now, but making sure that your words flow, and make sure that your thoughts follow in a logical progression. So How to Be Your Own Best Editor by Barry Tarshish is one book that I find very helpful. Another one that was recommended to me for editing is Write Tight by William Brohow. Say exactly what you mean with precision and power. Okay, and I think that it's worth the read, and it's time well invested. Okay, so I think you should at least have one book it has to do on editing. Now, when it comes to writing in general, let's say you're copywriter, you're a writer. Writing in general, On Writing Well is a classic. On Writing Well by William Zinsser is a classic, and one of my favorite quotes, I have it here underlined, from On Writing Well. It says, "Writing is like a good watch. It should run smoothly and have no extra parts." And that is what the editing is going to do for you. Of course, he's not talking about copywriting, but he's talking about writing in general, whether it is for the newspaper or a sports columnist or science and technology, or you're writing your own memoir or doing an interview or anything like that. Okay, but a classic, On Writing Well by William Zinsser. Okay, so those are some of the tools, okay, the use for writing. Now some others here, some others here as well too. Grammar, a pocket style manual. Okay, you're writing. Okay, so grammar is important. And here the tried and tested and true and classic elements of style, Strunk and White. Okay, anyone who is doing a college course or so forth would have this, or a writer would have this, on their desk. And Strunk and White, not only talks about grammar and words that are overused, and but he talks about the elementary principles of composition, how to be clear, look at words that are commonly misused, how to keep it simple and so forth. But Strunk and White, and I think this is one book that you can get online free. Okay, if you just Google the element of style, I'm sure that you'll be able to get this online for as a free book. Another here, again, not a must-have, but is advice to writers. I try to buy the more popular books, that writers, that writers use, just to try to help, hone my skills. Speaking of writing as well too, and this is just one part of copywriting, writing white papers, how to capture a reader and keep them engaged. This is by Michael Stelzer, and this is very handy when it comes to not only writing white papers, but also writing articles. Okay, if you're going to be an article writer, this is very helpful as well too, because you find that when you're writing a white paper, you're using persuasion, but your persuasion is more subtle. Okay, you're not using a lot of hype or stuff like that. The persuasion is more subtle in writing white papers, and it comes in handy when you have to kind of write a report. You're writing a report to give away. You're not really selling per se. You're kind of giving information, but you're selling at the same time, but in a very non-confrontational way, writing white papers. Okay. Okay. So those are some of the tools I use with regard to writing. Now what I'd like to share with you now are some of the books that that's a part of my library that now has to do with basically running a copywriter's business. Okay, so this is more like the business side of copywriting, and since I'm a freelancer, I don't work for an agency. You have to know basically how to advertise yourself, how to run your own business, and how to get clients, and so forth. Okay, so a highly recommended one, if you are going to be a freelance copywriter, is The Well-Fed Writer by Peter Bohrman. The Well-Fed Writer by Peter Bohrman, and he talks about the freelance life, and how to be a writer, and how to live a comfortable life, and being prepared of being self-employed, having your own business, how to get started, what you need and so forth. A lot of these things he referred to were pre-internet days, but still, they are very. It's a very, very good book, to read if you are going to be freelance. If you're you're interested in being a freelance copywriter. Now, very closely tied to that also is another book by Bob Bly called Secrets of the Freelance Writer, How to Make $85,000 a year. I would say more than $85,000 a year. And again, Bob Bly himself has been a freelance writer for many, many years, and he goes into how to run your business, how to get your clients, how to set your fees, how to drop a contracts, how to promote yourself, and common problems and that you'll have to handle as you deal with a career of being a freelance, being a freelance writer. Okay. Now, a source closely associated with that as well too is in freelance writing, and very important, especially if you're going to be a consultant. Of course, I do both. I do both copywriting and consultation, general consultation for online marketers, for online businesses rather, is value-based. Okay, value-based fees, how to charge and get what you're worth, by Alan Weiss, and basically he goes through how to get what you're worth, get a fair compensation for the work that you do, and how to set your fees and how to negotiate negotiate your fees. The basic premise of the book is that you should not be charging as a copywriter. You shouldn't be charging based on the amount of words you write or the number of hours you spend, but rather by the value that your writing is providing to the client. Okay, so charge according to the value that you're offering. Okay. Now, let me see if I'm through with the basic business. Okay, now those are directly involved with the business of copywriting. Now, another book by Weiss as well too is the $1 Million Consulting Toolkit, and as I said, this is a toolkit as well too. How to handle financing, writing an article, doing reports, doing interviews, and so forth, and the tools that you'll need as a consultant. And added back, you have different forms that you may be able to use, and so forth. Okay, so this is a very important book as well too if you're going to be doing some consultation. Now, you got to realize that as a copywriter, you're selling. Okay, so it means therefore you have to read some book on selling. Copywriting is basically selling, but in print. Now, I did some selling face-to-face when I was doing my second degree. I have 3 academic degrees. And when I was going back to school, I needed to fund my way, and I went house to house selling religious books. That is how I funded my second degree. And so you had to do a canvas, had to learn how to answer objections, how to present yourself, and so forth. Zig Ziglar on selling. Zig Ziglar on selling, the ultimate handbook for the complete sales professional, is very good. Okay, very, very good. And so even though you may not be selling in person, yet the principles again are very important. Okay, the principles here are very important. So it is well that you read this book, Zig Ziglar, the ultimate handbook for the complete sales professional. Okay, this is this comes highly recommended as well too. Again, selling. Okay. Now some other books I recommend as well too. On selling. These 2 books are by Jeffrey J. Fox. How to Become a Marketing Superstar. Again, you're selling, you're learning how to market yourself. And the other as well too is How to Make Big Money in Your Small Business. Again, is referring to using your how to promote your own business and how to run your own business. Again, another on selling is spin selling. Spin selling. SPIN is an acronym for Situation, Problem, Implication, and Need Payoff by Neil Rackman. And he goes as well into how to sell mainly to big corporations and big companies and so forth. And very much the principles that are here is very much tied to value-based. How to show the value that you're offering the client. Actually, value-based selling. Okay, highly recommended as well too. As to selling. Now, selling / marketing your plan. And here we come to some other books by Dan Kennedy, The Ultimate Marketing Plan, okay, as to go with the Ultimate Sales Letter. and make your mark, communicate your message, and finding your hook. And he gets into getting how to get free, how to get free advertising, and so forth. And as well, these are not just for me. I mean, I do not study these books just for me to market myself as a copywriter, but also as a consultant. It helps me to help those businesses that I consult for, how to help those businesses to to market their business as well too. Okay. Now, since I'm on Dan Kennedy, let me look at some other books by Dan Kennedy. How to make millions with your ideas. How to make millions with your ideas. Again, talk about marketing, your products and so forth. Also the No BS series, wealth. The No BS series on attracting wealth attraction for entrepreneurs, and also the business success as well. How to run a successful business. Again, not just for myself, but also I study these books as well to help my clients. How to manage your time. Time management is something that you really have to get down pat as a entrepreneur. Okay, and as a freelance. And for me, myself, as a freelance copywriter, time management, I found this helpful. Then again, dealing with sales as well, No BS, sales success as well, sales advice, and come in Dan Kennedy's own style. Now, let me say something, because on all these books, that I've just showed a while ago about Dan Kennedy, he's a marketer that I have a very much high respect for, not only for his personal beliefs and ethics and so forth, but I've learned a lot from him, from his newsletters. I've read practically maybe all of his books, and so forth. But one of the strategies that you will find here, and some people complain that you read Dan Kennedy book and he seems as though he's just advertising himself and he's advertising his clients. But you would note that each of Dan Kennedy's publication is actually a promotion for his own business. Okay, so he's not just teaching you, and you learn stuff. I mean, this is not just fluff. But what he does is that he plugs his own business by taking examples from there, and also for that of his for his high-paying clients as well too, those who are part of his mastermind. So a lot of the examples that you're going to find in his book are from his business associates, those who are part of his mastermind. So each book that Dan Kennedy produces is actually a sales letter, okay, for his own services. Okay. Now I want to go now into the whole mindset. Okay, because again, as a freelance copywriter and as maybe a home business owner, you can't depend on a boss to motivate you. You get up when you want, you go to sleep when you want. You have to learn how to manage your own time, and part of that as well too is that you got to stay motivated. You got to know, you got to make sure that you're always up in the morning and ready to work. Because if you don't want to work as a self-employed person, if you don't want to work, then you don't have to. So as a freelance copywriter, I got to make sure that I remain positive and whatever the circumstances are, So it is very important. You got to take care of your mind. And if you allow negative thoughts and trash to get in your mind, then afterwards you can become easily defeated. Okay. So now these are books, therefore, then that I read, that have to do with developing your own mindset, taking care of your mind. The good book says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So you got to make sure that you think, good thoughts, positive thoughts. And one that was highly recommended to me, and I really enjoyed this, was Frank Better, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. Now, even though this book is actually talking about selling, a lot here has to do with mindset and taking care of your body and your family and your children and your relationships, and so forth. Okay, and even though it has a lot to do with face-to-face selling, a lot of the principles here still can be applied to how you deal with your clients. Now, another highly recommended book as well too is The New Cybernetics, The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and was updated by Dan Kennedy. There's an audit that you can find for free on YouTube as well too if you just Google it, The New Cybernetics. And I highly recommend this as well too. If there's one book that you read, if you're an entrepreneur, if there's one book that you read, to keep yourself motivated and so forth, that I would really highly recommend, it would be this one, the New Cybernetics. Okay, now okay, I've got this covered. Let me see here. I thought I had some other books here. No. But some other books. Where did they disappear to? Anyhow, some other books as well too that I highly recommend that has to do with mindset as well too. Is Think and Grow Rich, and also, okay, they're right here. Come on, they're buried here. I buried them myself. Okay, got here. Here's Think and Grow Rich, of course, by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and also George S. Clason, The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay, The Richest Man in Babylon has more to do with how you use your money, how to save, how to manage, how to manage your wealth. Okay, that's a lot to do with mindset as well too. Now, if I could come back to this subject of marketing and so forth, a book I don't hear much people talk about, but this was one book that I got very early on in March 03, so 11 years ago. It is Steve Krug's Don't Make Me Think, and this book has to do with websites, how you design a website so it can be easy to be read and to be understood. And part of my consultation and part of being an online web copywriter and part of doing critiques for websites and so forth, I must be able to tell do some to advise my client on website usability. So you look at some website and right away say, oh no, I mean this person is crazy, you have flashing banners all over and everything is jumbled and they're using 10 different type of fonts and so forth. But Steve Krug's book, Don't Make Me Think, is a very, very good book. Highly recommended. Especially if you're a web designer. But even if you're not a web designer and you write online copy and you have to advise, how your copy is laid out and so forth, I would go along with this. Now, again, as I said, there are books to read on as a writer, you shouldn't just be hemming in yourself to read just one area. Okay, you have to read, a whole anything you can get your hand on. Okay, within reason. Basically what I'm saying that you do not want to read just within your field alone. You want to be able to read in other fields as well too, because you never know where you can get an idea from. Okay, and oftentimes you can get an idea from one unrelated field that would be able to be used in another field. Now, I have a very high respect for the Bible, not only as a religious person, but also as a literature as well too. And The Art of Biblical Poetry by Robert Alter, and more specifically, The Art of Biblical Narrative. The Art of Biblical Narrative is a classic by Robert Alter. And maybe this is not the kind of depth that you want to go into, but I've studied religion at graduate level, and studied the Bible at graduate level, and he looks at Bible writers and the persuasion and the storytelling techniques that they have used, and after you read this you realize there's nothing new under the sun. I've read modern books about storytelling and so forth, and the importance of storytelling, and by the way, that's another area in which you'll want to get versed on as well too. Read a book or two. I don't think I've got any. I took out any from my library. No, I didn't, but anyhow, I should have. Okay, but you need to get one or two books on storytelling, how to write good stories. But here he looks at all the principles that can be found in the Bible. Look at the stories of Samson and Delilah and Jacob and all those old Bible stories, and look at how the technique that was used by these writers. And you know, you get and read this book, you'll be shocked and surprised, okay, to see how deep, you know, that you know, the Bible is in that respect. Okay, so I've shared with you not all, but the more important books that's part of my library. You know, as a copywriter, maybe you would not want to go into all of that depth, but I have to, because you know, that's what I concentrate on in my business, and also as a copywriting coach as well, to be able to advise and you know, train others. So I have to go further than they have gone. Okay, now I think I missed this one here. Let me just stick it in. And this is Herschel's book, Power Copywriting. Power Copywriting, and he goes down into, this is very academic as well too, but Herschel goes down into the very word choice. Okay, and this is not a book that you want to read all the way through, you know, like get up and say like you read it like a novel, but you know, he really goes deep. Okay, Herschel really goes deep in terms of how just one word can make a difference in your copy. Okay, Power Copywriting by Gordon Herschel. Okay, I recommend that as well too. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope that you have been benefited from what I've shared with you, and I hope that even if you can't get all of these books or study all of these books, that you take a note of all those that I've highlighted and said, you know, this is important, you should get this one. And I know that it's going to help you in your own copywriting skills, and it's going to also help you in your business as well too. Okay? Over and out.